Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians who want to stop being busy and overwhelmed. You were such a punk.
That Friday energy.
Uh-huh.
Plus, day after food coma.
Just makes you crazy, huh?
I guess so. Go on.
Anyway, now I've lost where I'm at, but
I think you're just saying thanks for tuning in.
I'm Liz Frerichs. This is my insane husband, Evan.
Hi there.
Maybe not insane. Maybe just mischievous.
Yeah.
Troublemaking.
I'll own that. It's fun.
Anyway.
Don't tell anybody else.
This week, we are continuing to work our way through the CSCs and health.
Yeah.
So since today is Friday, we're going to talk about being complete and health.
Do you want to remind everybody what it means to be complete before I start in on some
All right.
other...
So if you're new to the show, being complete is utilizing your entire self, no fragmentation, and bringing your whole self to bear into each situation, not emotionally fragmented or mentally fragmented, like sending your brain off. I do that, like cooking and thinking about something else. And, oh, look, there's too much something in there.
Oh,
what a shock.
Right. We think we can multitask. So in our body, and as far as health goes, I was thinking this had to do with seeing how our entire body works together. The different systems in the body are one. And I think often we think that they're not really related. Like, if we brush our teeth, that's good for our teeth and that's it, but it's actually good for our whole body. Or the things we eat, we think you are what you eat. So we kind of know that, but we think we can eat anything as long as it's food and makes a little difference.
I think we mean food loosely, as long as it's edible.
Yes. Yeah. Not in the purest definition of food, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe the way you treat your skin is just for your skin. Doesn't affect anything else, does it? It's all connected, though. And I think that's really important to understand, especially when we're thinking about our health.
Definitely. Yeah, I've read some fascinating things over the years about how things are all interconnected. Problems with your teeth can cause problems in other areas of your body and vice versa.
Right. Or there's things that are happening somewhere in your body and they the warning light could be in your teeth or in your skin or on your hands or your feet or something.
And your exhaustion levels.
Sure. Yeah. It all's saying something about the whole. And I think all too often, I feel like I've done this plenty. Just seeing all the little things as little individual kind of segmented parts, but they're really one body.
Yeah, I remember it hit me really hard. It was sometime after we started getting into natural health that there was a correlation between the previous day and the next day.
Oh.
I
would kind of restart like in a video game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it hadn't struck me, but I was so used to, I'd had so many health problems throughout my childhood and teenager and college age, all that stuff. And so I was just used to dealing with constant headaches, different things like that. And so when I could, correlate I have a headache because
of something
I ate this yesterday, or, there's certain kinds of headache medicines actually give me a headache, taking Advil will give me a headache.
Yeah.
So different things like that where it was I have a headache today because of this thing that I did yesterday. And it was I don't know, it was such a revelation.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to seeing, headaches are their own thing.
Yeah. Right. Or a stomach ache or even something like spraining an ankle or something. It's all connected. So that's the complete thing I was thinking about. We could also talk about, being integrated with the world around us too. That has to do with the food we eat and the air we're breathing.
Yeah. And it's really important to actually deal with what is. I mean, that was one of the things that I wrote down. I think for me, at least, one of the areas where it's hard for me in the past to be complete was dealing with what actually was happening. Kind of that like just ignoring health symptoms, because that has been one of my big things, partially because, like I said, I lived with consistent headaches and all kinds of stuff, and I just kept shutting off my body's signals and being like, I don't have time. Like you would come home and you'd be like, oh, how was your day? Do you have a headache? And I'd be like, I don't know. Let me think. Oh,
and then
yeah.
Then I said the wrong thing.
Right. Then I'd realize like, oh, I'm almost nauseous because my pain hurts. My head is hurting so badly. But I just had, I was very fragmented. Like I had learned to just, oh, my knee's hurting. Stop listening to my knee,
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like shutting off the communication channel that your body has with you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hungry? Well, ignore that.
Yeah. I remember, even this is your story, but this story struck me. In college, you were like, you wouldn't have time to go to the bathroom. So you just wouldn't. And I don't know how you do that, but because I don't know, my body screams at me and I'm like, what? I guess I better go. You forget you have to go to the bathroom.
Well, yeah, you get distracted.
Yeah.
Get going.
Get so used to shutting off those systems.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that was something that I lived with for a long time, where it was just, ignore whatever the problem is because there's no time to deal with it.
Yeah. But it's just franticity, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I think being complete, you have to actually deal with what is. Both, the what is of what's going on around me, what's God's design for my body versus like what's the newest fad. I think sometimes we can get caught up in that and be like, oh, this new cool thing. And then it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, like name a diet, and if it, limits this major food category, like carbs or something.
Macronutrients.
And it's like, you just don't eat carbs. And you're like, well, what? I mean...
Yes, sure, don't eat carbs, and you're going to have problems with your adrenals, your hormones, your energy levels. Cut protein, and, oh man, now you can't detox.
I know.
Cut your fats, your brain will shrink.
Right, but we got to lose weight, so who cares, right?
Yeah, it's all backwards. But one of the things that I wrote down is, it's like changing the angle of something. If you're trying to cut from point A to point B and then your angle is off just a little bit. Or like that slow-mo guys video that we just watched.
Yeah, the one where they take the katana sword and try to slash through the water bottles.
Uh-huh. Yep. Its angle's off just a little bit, and if you start it off at the beginning just a little bit, it gets further and further off, and suddenly, you're really far from where your goal is.
I think another important part of being complete is, like we touched on it a little bit, but being fully enmeshed in the world around you. Like, we're made to live in the world, and so be in the world. And I think there's some really interesting ways to do that. Like, even as far as, the kind of light that you make in your house, or if you're exposed to sunlight or not, like that can affect your health dramatically.
Yeah.
If the light in your house is like something that's making you sick, like a fluorescent light or something, versus actual sunlight or more natural light. There's even light therapy you can do with different colors of light that can affect your health in a positive way.
Which sounds crazy, but we have totally, we've had a light therapy lamp for probably over a decade. And we've definitely seen it do some pretty amazing things.
Yeah. Make burns heal faster, just get over sicknesses faster. It's amazing. And that has to do with the way the world works. We weren't created and then dumped into a house with artificial light. Like Adam and Eve lived in the sun and in the moonlight and stuff like that. So there's also our connection with the ground. We spend a lot of our time separated from the actual earth. And whereas Adam and Eve and their kin were walking around on bare feet on the ground, and there's a connection there, electricity transfer, energy transfer that can benefit us. So some people just they call it earthing, spend some time just walking or standing barefoot directly on the ground. That can affect your health.
Yeah.
And it reconnects you with the world around you. helps you be more complete. So yeah, there's a number of things like that. And, we've tried a lot of them. Some of them we do, some of them we don't. Depends on if it benefits you or not and the situation that you're in, what your house is like. I mean, it'd probably be different if we lived in a condo 50 stories up in the air or something instead of in an actual house with a yard. But, I think we want to pay attention to that. What's the air quality like? What's the water that we're drinking like? How do we take care of our waste, and do we do things like garden? Like there's just things that the way we interface with the world, we want to pay attention to what those things are like because it does affect our health.
Yeah, definitely. And getting back to the health thing, I mean, a huge part of being present is being aware of what is actually going on. So I'm a huge fan of doing those regular measurements for things like, your morning resting pulse. If it's below, I think it's between 80 and 85 is healthy. And if it's lower than that, then...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just started doing this heart rate monitor thing. I'm usually in the high 70s, but I'm a little low. I probably should work on that, eh?
Yes. Yeah, that is an indicator of adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
And thyroid issues.
Was aware of that.
Yes. So, there's that test. We talked before this week about the Coca Pulse test to test for allergies. There are tons of things that you can do. Hair test analysis, just even going to talk to your doctor regularly.
Different kinds of blood work. I mean, see what how your vitamins and minerals are doing.
Yeah. Keeping an actual, whether it's a journal or a log or something of how you feel regularly so that you can tell the difference between like, oh, I'm tired. One of the big things that I did was I started tracking my sleep a few years ago, and it was pretty crazy. Just recognizing, oh, well, no wonder I'm exhausted all the time. I'm only getting like 5 or 6 hours of really crappy sleep per night,
Yeah, it's amazing when we just, our idea of what's going on, it can be very, very disconnected from what's actually going on until we start to keep that inventory and do that examination.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? We're like, I'm fine. And then what? I only sleep 5 hours a night? What?
Right. Yeah. It was, I was just like, man, because one of the things that I caught growing up was that like, if you're tired, you're just being a big baby. And so I was constantly like, man, I am such a wuss, instead of being like, oh, I don't get enough sleep,
It's normal to be tired when you're not sleeping.
Right.
Or if you're not eating, nutrient-dense food.
Yeah, that's another thing, keeping track of what you're actually eating and getting in enough calories. Because I think especially as a woman, you kind of get on the diet treadmill and then you have to cut your calories lower every time you diet. Because otherwise, you just gain the weight back.
Well, the older you get, it's a different set of circumstances too, right?
Right. Yeah. So paying attention, because if you're not getting in about 1,800 calories per day, your body can't run your autonomic nervous system. Just your heart, your lungs, you need that many calories just to run the basics.
Yeah, and it depends on the size of your body. If you're a really tall person, you're going to need more calories.
Right.
I mean, the thing on the nutrition facts on the box is average suggestions, but there's things specific to you that you can get to the bottom of and figure out what you need.
Yes.
With some of these methods.
Definitely. All right. Well, that's kind of a lot to throw out there, but hopefully there's something in there that, 1% improvement. Just pick one thing to be like, oh, maybe I should chase that down.
Yeah. Just Google one or two things. See. Find some information about it. But yeah, you don't have to overwhelm yourself.
Right. Yeah. Like we were talking about whatever day that was, yesterday or the day before, 3-legged stool. So health is, the legs are sleep, nutrition, and stress. Pick one of those legs. You don't have to do all of them. I have a tendency to think you should start with nutrition because nutrition, if you have good nutrition, it will lower your body's stress level and it'll make you more likely to sleep well.
And it might be the easiest one to control because you can you control that 100%.
Right.
Whereas stress you can't always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Anyway, We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Hope that you had an awesome Thanksgiving yesterday, and if it was stressful, try and, move past that. You don't have to carry yesterday's stress today.
Yeah, and hope you didn't get trampled at the store this morning going to Black Friday.
Yes. Come back next week, and we are going to talk about addiction.
That sounds fun.
Yes. Well, I think it'll actually be really good because I think especially around the holidays, because everybody ups their stress level, it can often either trigger addictions or make your addiction that you already
relapse.
have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
We'll get into it.
Have an awesome Friday and an awesome weekend.
That's right. Thanks for listening today. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.